Hello everyone and welcome back to Reese's Writing YouTube channel. Today I've got a fantasy problem. What do you mean, Reese? I said in my intro, in my sort of channel intro, what this whole channel is going to be about, that I don't like big books, and I don't think that's the case. I've read big books before. I like big books, and I cannot lie. Anyway, it's the series that is the problem with fantasy books. Is they have not hundreds, but like tens, 20, like the list goes on, and the amount of books that are needed for completion of fantasy books. Some of them, like some of these books that I'll get to now, have people that carry on them even though the author's dead. But anyway, I've got five fantasy books to show my fantasy problem that I have, and I'm pretty sure most of these 5 will be on my TBR at some point, and I think they sort of show each of them a little bit of a different problem. But yeah, if you have any recommendations for fantasy books, I will go through in another video about which fantasy books I've read, because I have read a few. I've read a few series. I don't know which one it is before, and I do listen to series more, I think, because if I normally buy books secondhand or randomly off the shop, and if I don't come across the first book, but I find 2, 3, 4, 5, then I'm not going to get them, because probably I'm never going to find that one, or I would have to buy it online, which I don't mind, but I don't know, it just seems like a whole sort of process, and it may be overpriced. Who knows? Anyway, so let's get on to the first book. Now, this one has been talked about a lot on BookTube. It is Shadow of the Gods by Gwynne. It's a trilogy. I think it's only a trilogy, which is good. I don't mind trilogies. Anything more, a bit excessive on my opinion, but there you go. The third one has just come out recently, so I think I would like this. I think I would enjoy it if I just started it, but it's the initial oomph to get me into a certain franchise. I need that thing to cross the line, and I think this is about Norse. It's all Norse, like fantasy with mythologies, magic, gods, and I do like sort of the gods, mythologies, folklore. That gets me interested in stories. I'm less interested in war and fighting. Fighting, I don't get very interested in. I'm not like, if one of the main protagonists is a big warrior dude, I'm like, he doesn't sound interesting to me. But I'm sure once I got into this saga, then I'll probably get into it. I'll probably enjoy it, and I may carry on the next 2. If I did read this, carry on the next 2 on audiobook, or maybe I would buy it on paperback. I don't know. But anyway, The Shadow of Gods doesn't really have a synopsis. Does it have any sort of thing? ASMR, can you hear that? This is the very brief blurb. Set in a brand new Norse-inspired world and packed with myth, magic, and bloody vengeance, The Shadow of the Gods begins an epic new fantasy saga from best-selling author Gwynne. So that is Shadow of the Gods, and I may pick it up in the new year. I've got quite a few series that I want to get to, which I will also do a video on, so look out for that. And also, I didn't actually say it, but thanks for 20 subscribers. To anyone who's pressed subscribe, who's liked, who's commented, who's found some joy or anything in these videos, they're just me, pissing around in my flat. So thanks to anyone that's watched or, done any of those things that YouTube says to do. It means a lot to see people actually engaging with videos. So thank you. And then the next book. This is what I go for in secondhand books, because secondhand bookshops, this is the ones that I sort of get pulled towards. They're standalone, potentially standalone. I don't really care all too much if it's standalone or not. And it doesn't say whether it's got multiple trilogies or what have you. The Lure of the Basilisk by Lawrence Watt Evans. I don't know if this is good. It may be crap. I don't know. I like the book cover. It's a pretty cool book cover. I like the guy.
Unhappy priest!
I think these sort of retro-esque painted covers, they really grab me. They're not too over science fiction-y or too over fantasy. They just are well done, well created. So yes, anyway, the blurb. Garth was promised immortal fame by the forgotten king, a decrepit ancient dressed in yellow rags who huddled over a tavern table in the decaying outpost of Scalath. But there was a price. Garth must first bring back the creature he would find in the ancient crypts beneath the ensorcled. I've never heard that word before. I haven't looked up what it is. Maybe it's something to do with sorcery. I don't know. Beneath the ensorcled, ENSORCELLED. If anyone knows the definition of that word, leave it in the comment section down below. The encircled city of Mormoreth. To an overman such as Garth, it seemed a simple task, until he found that the way was beset by invisible bandits, that Mormoreth was the dreaded enchanter Shang, and that the dweller in the crypts was a basilisk, whose breath was poison, whose touch was deadly, and whose gaze turned any living creature to stone. How does man, or even an overman, entrap a basilisk? How can he handle it on the long road back to Scalath? And above all, what possible use has a forgotten king for a basilisk? Yeah, this has been on my bookshelf for a long time. I found it randomly, potentially in Hey on Why. Yeah, I may get to this, I may not. I don't know. If I'm looking for something a little bit more fantasy for a quick read, then this is probably a good one to go to. So that is The Lure of the Basilisk. And then the next one. Now, this was an accidental purchase, okay? This grabbed me. I was like, ooh, Moorcock. Ooh, cool front cover with a beam of light and some weird looking wall or castle thing that's blue, a weird cloud. I was like, yeah, I want to try this. Only how foolish. How foolish of me to think that this would be a standalone, because it's not. And it's number 5 or 6. I've seen lists. I've looked up the Elric saga. It says this is the 9th. This is the 9th book in the Elric saga. This is the one that I was sort of hinting at being like taken over and, used by other authors to carry on. So there's loads of books based on the Elric thing. I've heard it's a massive sort of classic. So if I'm pretty interested in giving the Elric saga a try, giving it a go. At some point, I think the audiobook is free for the first 3, so I would probably give that a try at least, see how it is, and then try and get the other thing until I can finally read this thing, because it's probably going to be on my bookshelf for quite a while until I find the first 5 or 10 or whatever. But anyway, Stormbringer, the mighty rune sword, hangs far away in the city's armory. Elric, haunted albino warrior king, has sworn never again to touch the enchanted blade, but now he needs it as never before. Evil supernatural beings have abducted Zarazina, his lovely wife. He would sacrifice the world itself to rescue her, but will Stormbringer, seemingly endowed with a mind of its own, allow it? Elric is fated to ride out again over spectral landscapes with a sentient blade he both loves and hates, which has slain enemies and claimed comrades. So yes, I could probably read this. I think it could be rather standalone. Seems like a one sort of quest, but I definitely wouldn't get some of the stuff he's hinting back to in this book. And Michael Moorcock has wrote a lot, I've come to realise. So that is Stormbringer. Oopsie daisy. If that is like expensive, I'm ruining the price. That's probably dropped down £1. And then this is, I really want to get to this. This is Robert Silverberg's Lord Valentine's Castle. It's the first book in the Madripoor cycle. I don't know if the books after it are sort of needed, but if I did get hooked on this, I probably would try and find the next 2. I've heard mixed reviews on this. I think Robert Silverberg in general can be rather hit or miss in certain ways. So yeah, I do really want to get to this. I've got other Robert Silverbergs. He's done a lot of science fiction. This is more science fantasy, but I think it's more science fantasy, but I would really want to get to this. So let's read the blurb. From the heart of the Iabrynth, the Pontifex rules the giant and magnificent world of Madripoor by telepathic command and by the terror sent by the King of Dreams. High above on Castle Mount, his abducted son, the coronal, lives in state, holder of the starburst crown. When a conspiracy overthrows the legitimate coronal and replaces him with an impostor, the treason is concealed by sorcery until a dream reveals it to Valentine, a travelling juggler. Valentine cares nothing for princes, but when the time comes for the guardians of the dream to rise up, Valentine must answer to them. It sounds pretty bizarre. King of Dreams sounds cool. Starburst Crown sounds like a Mario Kart tournament. Sounds interesting. I love the idea of a traveling juggler being the main protagonist. I don't know if it's going to be any good for a juggler to be the main protagonist, but there you go. I'm interested, and yeah, I will probably put this quite high up in the TBR at some point. So that is Lord Valentine's Castle. And then the final one is Powell Anderson's, I think it's Powell Anderson's The Broken Sword. And this is, I'm pretty sure, a standalone fantasy book, which is pretty hard to come by. There's a few that I really want to get to. Jenny Waltz's To Ride Hell's Chasm is up there as one that I should really look into, try and get. But yeah, this looks pretty cool. This is a fantasy masterworks, nothing special book, but I think it's a bit of a classic as well. So I like to read the classic, sort of how certain things are made, how things come about, the origin of certain traits and tropes and how they were done initially. That sort of really interests me. So yeah, I'm interested in sort of the classics, I would say. So let's read the blurb. Thor has broken the sword turfing so that it cannot strike at the roots of Yggdrasil. See, I got a Welsh accent down, alright? That's what you get for living here. The tree that binds together earth, heaven and hell. But now the mighty sword is needed again to save the elves in their war against the trolls and only Scathlock. Shall I do the rest in Welsh? Not Welsh language. Welsh accent. A human child. That's not Welsh. A human child kidnapped and raised by the... Oh, I can't do a fucking Welsh accent. I can only do it in certain words, okay? A human child kidnapped and raised by the elves can hope to persuade Bolverk, the ice giant, to make turfing whole again. But Scathlock must also confront his shadow self, Valgard, the changeling who has taken his place in the world of men. So this, I would say, is probably a lot of Arthurian tiebacks. Like, I think it's a bit of a romance. I'm interested in getting this. So this will be also high up in the TBR for next year. And that is The Broken Sword. Whoopsie. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, hit like, subscribe, comment any fantasy books that you think would interest me, and I shall see you in the next video. Bye.